Hello everyone, this is part 20 of What If Naruto and Hinata trained together and a spark happened, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. What is happening? Neji asked the leader of the first group of soldiers the two leaf ninjas encountered. Explosions at the east and south entrances, the warrior answered nervously. Neji exhaled in consideration. Naruto, head to the southern disturbance. I will go east. The Hyuga Jonin then addressed the Toki's guards. You men take up positions by the conference room, and guard the daimyos. Naruto nodded, and the two shinobi split up. One of the other soldiers looked at his commander with a doubtful look. Sir, should we be taking orders from him? The lieutenant shrugged. It is our duty to protect Lady Toki. We should keep working, the daimyo of the Land of Birds insisted. Read through this as quickly as possible, and if necessary, sign it now. That will confound their plans. Not that I don't trust Naruto and Neji, she quickly reassured Sakura. The kunoichi nodded, but she too looked nervous. Right, then, Haruna lifted the edge of the first page of the document and began reading. Article 1, the establishment of the Mutual Advancement Alliance between the Land of Birds and the Land of Greens. Neji raced down the hall, his arms trailing behind him. He rolled his elbows, loosening the kunai hidden in his forearm sheaths. He turned a corner, and saw a small group of guards. Of the 23 soldiers, only 5 were still standing, and many of the fallen appeared to have fatal injuries. Saburo grinned as he saw Neji, and without taking his eye off the leaf ninja, he swung his right arm back, wrapping the now partially unwound chain around one soldier's neck. The smell of burning flesh emerged from under the weapon, and the tall grass shinobi gestured again, throwing the unfortunate warrior into the wall. Get back, Neji counseled, take the injured and retreat. I was getting bored anyway. Saburo ran his left hand through the center spike of his bizarre hairdo. He then graciously took a step back, allowing the bird fighters to retrieve their own and escape. The great Neji Hyuga, he smirked, killing you will cement my representative forever. You might be getting ahead of yourself. The leaf jonin was unconcerned, though he carefully watched the chains trailing from his opponent's wrists. He recognized the red color was from the temperature of the metal, and that they were not burning their wielder. If you don't mind, can we skip the opening round? The grass jonin asked in a friendly manner. I'm already warmed up, and it's not really my style. Besides, I already know what you can do. Neji did not answer with words, but he slipped effortlessly into the gentle fist stance. Taking that as an affirmation, Saburo began a complex set of hand signs. Hyuga recognized the pattern as being part of a transformation jutsu, but was not familiar with the specific technique. Ru. The top-heavy invader concluded, ninja art, ursine form jutsu. The grass agent began to sprout thick brown fur, and his mouth extended into a short muzzle. His body grew, with his lower body increasing faster than his upper body, until he was almost 9 feet tall, and evenly proportioned. His hair remained the same, except where his ears shifted higher on his head, becoming more rounded. His fingertips sprouted thick claws. Saburo rolled his wrists twice, unwrapping more of his chains, so they once again trailed on the ground with his increased height. The bear warrior also took on a fighting posture. Byakugan, Neji activated his genjutsu, to little avail. His enhanced vision failed to pierce the Saburo's chakra-laced fur. Even if I cannot see his chakra network, I can still strike at his internal organs, the dojutsu user concluded internally, and the additional bulk must slow him down. It is best if I end this quickly, so I can return to the others. Without another second of hesitation, the leaf shinobi charged forward, leading with his fingers. Saburo swung his left chain at Neji's jaw, but the small fighter ducked easily under the weapon. His fingers darted out, and he struck 3 times around the grass bear's heart in the span of one breath. Even as he connected, the altered human was lashing out with his right hand, and Neji was forced to roll to his right to avoid having his left arm bound and burned. To the Hyuga jonin's surprise and annoyance, his opponent did not collapse. Instead, the bear-shaped warrior chuckled at his grimace. My guard hairs are stronger than most armor, he boasted, and this form gives me an extra thick layer of fat and muscle under my hide. I felt your little attacks, but they're too gentle to do any real damage to me now. He swung both of his chains horizontally, one high and one low. Neji was too close to dodge, so he extended his hands and spun. 8 trigrams palm's heavenly spin, he incanted, expelling chakra from his open hands. The Hyuga technique first sent the chains flying, then connected with Saburo's wrists, knocking him away too. That tingles, the Ursine shinobi chuckled, as Neji darted back out of range. Now what, boy? He continued to mock, swinging the red-hot links lazily before him. Your special little taijutsu doesn't do jack to me, nor do your other techniques. While if I get one solid hit on you, this fight's over. And close combat is your only real weapon. Looking desperate, the Leaf Jonin flung his left arm wide, releasing 3 kunai. Saburo did not even try to block. The blades were stopped by his fur, failing to draw even a drop of blood. That's just sad. The grass soldier trailed off in confusion when he heard a hissing sound. He glanced down, and saw sparks spitting out of the loop on one of Neji's knives. Before he could comprehend what was happening, the paper bombs, built into each blade, exploded. Naruto skidded to a halt as twin bursts of water and lightning bounced Toki's men into the air. A number of soldiers were scattered about the hall, unconscious but alive. The stone tiles rattled, and most of the remaining soldiers capsized in the earth-shaking jutsu. This clearing allowed Naruto to see his opponent. The blonde Chunin grinned in dark joy when he realized the enemy ninja was the same one who had impersonated him the previous day. You guys should back off, Uzumaki warned the regular army, this is gonna get a little bit messy. The soldiers pulled the disabled comrades back to a safe distance and set up a second line, just in case Naruto failed. Naruto Uzumaki, the smaller ninja inclined his head politely, we were not properly introduced yesterday. I am Gingi of the circuits, a chunin of the village hidden in the grass. Of the circuits. Naruto looked confused, what does that mean, you're a robot? No, the bald shinobi said flatly, but then his expression perked up, let me give you a demonstration of my title. He raised his elongated arms, and the leaf ninja finally noticed his odd braces. They were made primarily of metal and plastic, and did not appear to very useful for stopping attacks. Each of the forearm panels had 2 rows of 6 raised plastic semicircles. Water rupture jutsu, Gingi announced, without using any hand signs. A 4-foot diameter sphere of water formed between them, and exploded, knocking Naruto backwards and down to his knees. Stone Spears Jutsu, the apish warrior pointed his right hand at the floor beside Uzumaki, and the granite tiles shot forth spikes. The blonde youth was forced to dive to the side to avoid being impaled. Oh yeah, Naruto roared nonsensically, how about this? Rasengan. He surged forward, his right hand holding the spiraling sphere. But before he had covered half the distance, Gingi countered. Updraft Wall Jutsu, again with no effort, the grass chunin activated the technique, and strong gusts of wind lifted Naruto into the air and held him. These are really strong jutsus, Naruto thought, and he's used 4 of the 5 elements. I can only use 3, and my only decent earth technique is Stone Claws. Speaking of mom's techniques, Yukihana's son dismissed the Rasengan, and quickly signed. Cyclone Spikes Jutsu, Naruto announced, and 8 spikes shot out. Instead of aiming them all at the grass ninja, Naruto spread out the air darts, making it hard for the tech user to dodge them all. Granite Wall Jutsu, again the floor erupted, stopping all of the missiles. Even as the wall receded, Gingi activated another technique, announcing, Lightning Clap Jutsu. The electrical explosion forced Naruto back out of the wind trap, shocking his system at the same time. The blonde warrior was barely able to right himself before he landed. He missed his opponent's next incantation, but dove forward to avoid the lash of flame aimed at his chest. Darn it, Naruto grimaced, you can't be just a chunin. What are you? I'm the future of ninjutsu. Gingi turned his wrists back to point his braces at Naruto, no longer will shinobi have to spend months or years mastering esoteric techniques. With jutsu circuits like these, all it takes is a little chakra control, and any ninja can use any jutsu. Once the final test run is complete, there will be no difference between the ranks, or even between villages. There will be no need to waste time training apprentices. Even genin will be able to use the strongest killing moves without limits. Bullshit, Naruto roared, enraged. I'll never acknowledge someone like you as a true ninja. I won't need your acknowledgement. Once I crush you, the shorter warrior scoffed. That'll never happen, Naruto settled, and his voice grew mocking. I'll show you that someone who relies on crutches like that can never defeat a real ninja. You haven't even come close to me so far, the grass soldier snorted. What makes you think you can beat me? Now that I know the source of your power, Uzumaki boasted, I'll show you its 3 fatal limitations. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. The copies charged forward, surrounding Gingi. Attacked from all corners, the tech ninja rapidly spun, sending out attack after attack. Rolling earth jutsu. Spark javelins jutsu. Grand fireball jutsu. Lava surge jutsu. Frigid wind jutsu. A. The last 2 clones started to move in, and Gingi struggled to catch his breath. Iron bar. Barrage jutsu. The ball Chunin panted out the technique, but was able to defeat the final duplicates. Number 1. Naruto raised his right pointer. You haven't learned jutsu the hard way. You haven't been forced to stretch your chakra reserves or hone your chakra control. I don't know anyone else who claims to be Chunin that would be so winded after using only 20 or so jutsu like that. Even the 2 or 3 that would be running on empty, they'd have enough restraint to not be physically worn out like that. I'm not out of chakra, Gingi protested, raising his left arm, and erratically spewing out, sandstorm jutsu. One of the crystals on the coat glowed briefly golden brown, but nothing else occurred. Naruto smirked and moved in, engaging in a brief taijutsu battle with Gingi. But the tech ninja held his own, despite his exhaustion. After half a minute of punches and kicks, Naruto's fists began to glow purple, and he grabbed Gingi's left wrist. The grass Chunin's arm jerked under the Ranshinsho, however the effect on his bracha was more pronounced. The 12 bubbles began to glow, sizzle, and then explode in turn. The ones closest to Naruto's hand were the first to pop. Number 2, Jiraiya's student jumped back, lecturing again. Circuits are fragile things. They don't like heat, liquids, or outside electricity, the knucklehead quoted Shizune, remembering the lecture he'd been given after spilling juice on the keyboard that came with his computer. Then he remembered something Kakashi had told him, and chakra circuits are even more touchy than normal ones. That means your jutsus are really easy to disable. Why you? The smaller, yet older ninja snarled at the teen, but Naruto disappeared. The leaf warrior reappeared next in Gingi, and was gone before the tech ninja could react. And, number 3, Naruto grinned broadly, holding up Gingi's surviving bracha, is the fact that if your opponent is faster, he can take your techniques, and use them against you. Naruto put his finger under one of the circuits and channeled energy into it. Water rupture jutsu. Naruto's use of the technique created a much larger sphere than Gingi's did, and the grass ninja was bounced into the wall, head first. The invader slid to the ground, and did not move. Naruto crossed to him quickly, and took off his opponent's backpack. After binding Gingi's arms, the leaf Chunin made a quick search of the grass Chunin's equipment. He removed all of Gingi's other computerized techniques and a spare connector board. He piled the ninjutsu modules, and the 3 braces, on the floor with a look of disgust. Naruto summoned 2 clones, and held up his hand. The clones did their work, and a roiling purple orb appeared above his palm. Raiten Rasengan, he said fiercely. He thrust the sphere into the mass of technology with an expression of satisfaction. The clone swept the stragglers back in, making sure every circuit and all of the interfaces were totally destroyed. Then, chuckling to himself at the irony, he took out his cell phone and punched in Neji's walkie-talkie number. Neji, he spoke into the device, glancing at his opponent one more time, I've captured the one attacking the southern gate. Do you need my help over there? No, the team leader said carefully, rejoined Sakura. Got it, Uzumaki nodded, even though Neji could not see him. Keep an eye on this guy, the ninja told the regular soldiers who had stayed to watch the battle. One of them saluted him, and others moved in, leveling their spears at the unconscious invader. With slight misgivings, Naruto reversed his original course. Cute, Saburo chuckled as the smoke cleared. Though his fur was scorched, only a few small trickles of blood escaped from where the trapped blades had exploded. I'll have to remember that trick, the bear warrior smirked, a souvenir from this battle. He took a step towards Neji, lifting his hand for his next attack. But before he could, a voice emerged from Hyuga's robes, and the grass Jonin paused in amusement. Neji, I've captured the one attacking the southern gate. Do you need my help over there? Neji considered Naruto's words with a touch of concern. There had been 4 grass ninjas for the impersonation, and none had appeared to be clones. But if there was only one here, he considered, and only one fighting Naruto, then the other 2 must be. No, the gentle fist user said carefully, rejoined Sakura. Got it, Naruto answered, before disconnecting. Neji returned his attention to his opponent, but was surprised to find Saburo looked as if he had been sucker punched. Ayameko, the transformed fighter growled with a touch of worry and confusion. Article 14, Toki took over reading, limiting import taxes and tariffs on produce. In the interest of encouraging trade and public health, both signing bodies will limit any respective fees on produce to no more than 2%. Produce shall be defined as. Sakura suddenly perked up nervously, and the daimyo trailed off. Lady Toki, the kunoichi said lightly, as if just making conversation, I wouldn't suppose there would happen to be a hidden exit from this room. No, the ruler of the bird country controlled her answer, just the 2 normal ones. This room is against the central support pillar of the palace. The other 2 walls rest against 2 feet of solid granite. Is something the matter? We're not alone. Oh my, a voice emerged from the empty space in front of the northern exit. It appears we have been detected, KO. The unassuming grass fighter appeared inside the door, while the one-eyed kunoichi ended her camouflage jutsu blocking the eastern portal. Both rulers backed into the corner, and Toki drew her blade from under her kimono. How courteous, the plain shinobi smiled blissfully, now there is no need to search for it. Though I doubt you will be kind enough to just hand it over. What are you talking about? Sakura drew a kunai in each hand, and moved closer to the princesses. The kunoichi named Ko equipped the same whip she had shown when impersonating Haruna the previous day. She cracked the weapon perilously close to Sakura's uncovered leg. The leaf ninja did not flinch, and the grass leader raised his hand to forestall his teammate's aggression. Hadn't you heard? He said conspiratorially, the final negotiations were a farce. Lady Toki lured Lady Haruna here to eliminate her. We were sent by the grass daimyo to protect his cousin, but we arrived too late. As she had so many others, Toki cut down Haruna, aided by her leaf ninja allies. No one would believe that, Haruna protested. They will, when Toki admits it, the talkative villain told them, after we finish you and Miss Haruno, a round of genjutsu will make the bird's daimyo believe she did it. Aren't you getting ahead of yourself? Sakura's eyebrows came together in annoyance. Oh, I'm sure you are quite strong, young lady, the male Jonin said truthfully, but we have you outnumbered, outranked, and we are not imbued by the need to protect others. Of course, if you save our time and energy and just surrender, I can make your death quick and painless. Sakura's answer was to fling the kunai in her left hand at his heart. He caught the blade by the handle, and started twirling it around his thumb. Ko, get Toki's sword and kill Haruna. I'll play with the girl. As he said that, the male Jonin threw Sakura's kunai and added one of his own. The youngest woman in the room deflected the blades into the floor. The other kunoichi flicked out her lash, aiming for Toki's right wrist. But Sakura jumped in the way, grabbing the whip with her now empty left hand. Gripping the leather lash tightly, the powerhouse healer began pulling the grass soldier closer. The whip user took out a second weapon, and quickly put shallow marks on Sakura's left cheek and right wrist. Ko drew back her left arm again to strike again, but Sakura released the woman's right-hand weapon and the attacking kunoichi stumbled back. The male shinobi had closed the gap, and swung his sword at Sakura's head. Like its owner, the longsword appeared unremarkable. It was 3 feet long, double-edged, with a simple bar hilt, cylinder pommel, and no other distinguishing marks. Sakura blocked with her kunai. Almost too fast for her to follow, he withdrew and then stabbed at her chest. She stopped his attack with her throwing dagger again, and the wedge-shaped knife cracked under the repeated blows. Cursing herself for underestimating him, Tsunid's apprentice threw the damaged blade at her opponent's foot, buying her a precious instant to retrieve her scroll and withdraw her axe. As she put the paper locker away, she palmed a trio of shuriken and tossed them at Ko, who had recovered and was advancing towards the daimyos again. The one-eyed woman knocked him away with her right whip, even as her left whip snaked out towards Toki again. However, The bird's princess did not carry the katana for show, and was able to deflect the attack. Right, Naruto said Lady Toki could fight, Sakura remembered, but she's no match for a full-fledged ninja. Sakura caught his next attempt to skewer her on the flat of her weapon's oversized head. She pushed him back, but he rolled with the pressure and spun back for an overhand stroke. The medic darted away, slashing at the cord, snaking towards Toki's hand again. KO directed the whip to drop, sacrificing her attack to avoid losing one of her weapons. Sakura started to chase her back, but the plain ninja and his plain blade intercepted her again, and she was forced to put her attention back on him. She decided to take out his weapon, so she could return to the other three women. She sent her chakra into her weapon, increasing its weight. The young woman planted her feet, and swung the axe horizontally, two-handed, with a force that could have felled even Gamabunta or Manda with a direct hit. The slender ninja blocked without so much as a shudder, but the marble tiles under his feet exploded. Sakura grimaced, and reversed the grip of her left hand, twirling the massive blade into a diagonal strike, which should have bisected him from his right shoulder to his left hip. Once again, he stopped the attack with only one hand, and with no indication of any strain. The remaining shards of stone under his feet powdered, and the wood over the bedrock splintered. The leaf ninja grimaced, and stopped his next attack. Her annoyance and confusion deepened. Though he had speed and precision, his attacks lacked power. He should not have been able to stop her so simply or completely. Force flow jutsu, he read her expression, my own technique. It transfers any impact to my sword, no matter how powerful, out the bottom of my feet. That makes me the perfect person to fight you or your teacher. Raw power is meaningless against me. Until I bury you, Sakura smirked, hammering him again. The planks he was standing on broke apart, and he nodded in agreement. As his sword snaked out again, he slid sideways onto more stable footing. His blow was faster than the previous one, and Sakura just barely avoided having her jugular slit. She struck again, but as with the previous 3 times, the damage went to the floor. The Chunin tried to spare a glance at her charges, but her opponent punished her for her inattention. She only partially deflected the stab, and the sword slid cleanly into her right shoulder. She started to channel chakra to the wound, even as she tried to take advantage of the situation. With the grass ninja's blade slowed by her flesh and bone, she flipped her axe upwards with her left hand. Though the impromptu blow was weaker than her previous strikes, it was aimed for an extremely sensitive area. With a look of exaggerated terror, the plain warrior jumped back almost to the door, barely avoiding being muted. Sakura turned back to the grass kunoichi, but she was too late. Her left hand whip pulled Toki's katana into KO's waiting right hand. As soon as she gripped the curved blade, she dashed forward, her lone eye practically glowing with glee. The daimyo of the land of birds tried to defend her younger counterpart, but the female jonin doubled her over with a punch to the stomach, and then knocked her away with a kick to the chest. Haruna! Sakura shouted, diving. But the forgettable shinobi had drawn her too far away. The katana rose and fell with a flash. There was the all-too-familiar sound of metal cutting skin and muscle, and a spray of blood coated the wall. Neji knocked the glowing hot chain away with his tonfa. Unable to block the heated weapon with his hands, the Hyuga Jonin had taken out his oft-neglected weapons. He could have continued to use the heavenly spin, but it did not have any measurable impact on his opponent, and the younger warrior did not want to waste his chakra. The chains were the most troublesome part of his opponent's offense. Neji knew that if he could have a few heartbeats in close, he had techniques that could penetrate Saburo's armored fur. But whenever he tried to move in, he found himself overwhelmed by the dancing metal links. So he observed his opponent, trying to think of a way to disable the chains or disarm the grass ninja. Ninja art, molten chaos, Saburo announced. He did not swing the chains, but they shot out anyways, moving at sharp angles. Neji deflected them, but the chains turned in midair, darting back at him. The links unwound further from their owner's wrist, and once they had sufficient length, they doubled up, attacking him with both the ends and with spikes in their middles. Beset by 4, then 6 constant attackers, Neji was overwhelmed. He managed to avoid being bound, or taking any serious hits, but his clan robes were in tatters, and a number of seared bruises were erupting over his skin. Finally, the leaf jonin dropped his weapons, and extended his palms. Rotation. Neji spun in place, sending out his chakra to keep the chains at bay. But the zoanthropic shinobi had anticipated this, and the red-hot chains wrapped around the circumference of the Hyuga technique, bearing down and forcing Neji to continue the jutsu. It only took a moment for Hisashi's son to realize his mistake. As soon as he stopped the heavenly spin, the chains would rush in and trap him. But Saburo's jutsu almost certainly took less chakra to maintain than the 8 trigrams technique, so the bear-shaped warrior could simply wait for Neji to wear himself out. Casting about desperately, Neji saw again his paired tonfa, unceremoniously discarded. Shifting his Byakugan to the dome, and then to his opponent, the Hyuga branch ninja came up with a risky plan. Even as he spun, he maneuvered his feet closer to the discarded weapons. His 360-degree gaze took in all the factors, and he ran through some quick calculations. But in the end, he just went with his gut. Looping his foot under the first of the forearm bars, he kicked it nearly straight up. When it struck the boundary of the heavenly spin, the weapon's trajectory changed, and it was accelerated. Faster than any thrown weapon, or even most bows or crossbows, the blunt object shot towards Saburo. The big man blinked in surprise and worry as the tonfa passed within centimeters of his face. That was close, he started to admonish Neji, even as the second weapon struck him in the chest. Despite being neither sharp nor aerodynamic, the tonfa penetrated Saburo's armored fur, muscle, and one of his ribs, brushing up against his right lung. The weapon only stopped when its hilt struck the grass warrior's chest. In that instant, the chains went slack, and just to be certain, Neji jumped outside of their circle at the same time he ended his jutsu. As he landed, Saburo was standing unsteadily, slowly wrapping the chains back around his forearms. That hurt, Saburo admitted, taking a shallow breath, but you didn't hit anything vital. And you gave up your weapons to do it. So while this has been interesting, I think we are done here. Once he had finished coiling the metal links, he crossed his arms before his chest, still ignoring the end of the tonfa extending from his chest. Neji watched his opponent carefully, slipping back into the gentle fist stance. Burn, Neji Hyuga. The growled command escaped his muzzle, followed by the shaping phrase, ninja art, firebug jutsu. The links of the chains pulled apart, their heat increasing, and the glow brightening. They swarmed around their master like insects. And then he gestured and the pieces of the chain flew at Neji. The Hyuga Jonin grimaced, not because of the threat, but because he was about to prove Naruto right. Neji's posture shifted slightly, and a large chakra seal appeared around his feet. Byakugan art, protection of the 8 trigrams 64 palms, he announced with a touch of regret. Hinata's technique streamed out from her cousin's fingers, and the already softened metal rings were sliced in two. As he destroyed their form, the chakra bonded to the metal was released as well. The chain pieces dropped from the air, rapidly cooling as they fell. In the end, the grass ninja's attack could not match the leaf defense, and every part of Saburo's weapon was destroyed. However, Neji's mastery of the technique could not match Hinata's, and a few of the links tagged him before his could cut him down. The two shinobi faced one another, injured but still standing. After a moment, Neji raised his hands again. But Saburo shook his head. "You destroyed my ember chain," the grass ninja said without anger. He pulled the tonfa out of his chest with a few gasps of agony, and tossed the weapon down. "And with this injury, I cannot hope to fight you up close," he admitted. "However, as you have figured out from my emotional slip, Gingi was not supposed to be fighting alone. So that means Sakura Haruno is fighting 3 of us instead of the 2 who were supposed to sneak into the meeting." Saburo shrunk back to his normal size and shape, continuing, "So when I pragmatically turn tail and run, you should pragmatically go help your teammate." Grinning at his own cleverness, Saburo turned to leave. Thus he did not see the smaller chakra seal emerge from Neji's feet. 8 trigrams, 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. As the grass ninja collapsed, paralyzed, Neji told him, "I don't think it would be pragmatic for me to let you escape." And then the Hyuga shinobi hurried back towards the conference room, limping as fast as his injured legs would carry him. "Are you all right, Haruna?" A gentle voice, unknown to Sakura, asked amidst breaths of pain. The medic realized another woman had appeared between Ko and the land of Green's daimyo. The newcomer was older than the leaf kunoiki, around the same age as Toki. She wore simple clothes, but held herself like a warrior. And she had a long, deep cut from her left shoulder blade almost to her bottom. I am Echo. The younger ruler gasped. I made it in time. The buxom beauty smiled happily through the injury. She straightened, turning halfway to watch her former comrade. Lady Haruna, who is this? Toki asked, intentionally masking their relationship from their attackers. She's. Haruna trailed off, unsure what to say. She's a grass ninja, Sakura said dubiously. Ayameko's damaged shirt had slipped down, revealing the shield that partially covered her cleavage. The injured kunoiki did not back down or look away. I know her, Haruna asserted, I trust her. I'm afraid that won't do, Toki said quietly. The short version. Haruna offered after a sigh, she is family. Her mother is my cousin. And while I was held hostage in the land of grass, she was my friend, my only friend. So I trust her. Your cousin. Toki frowned, that means. I am the niece of the daimyo of the land of grass, Ayameko confirmed, and like my mother and uncle, I am sworn to keep Haruna safe. That is why I asked for this mission. I did not believe Saburo or Jin could be trusted to follow our ruler's orders. The gradient-haired kunoiki focused her attention on Sakura, and stated plainly, I will not let anything happen to Haruna, and for her sake, I will guard Lady Toki as well. The leaf doctor nodded, turning her concentration back to the now-named man. Jin frowned, almost pouting. I'm hurt, Ayameko, he said with mocking dismay. Not yet. Sakura swung again, no longer upset that he stopped her cold, but now that you're my only opponent. Before she could make good on the threat, the leaf teen found herself barraged by the grass swordsman. Sakura blocked a horizontal swipe, stepping sideways with a half-hearted attack of her own. Though she no longer had to focus on KO, she still had to keep Jin away from the princesses, which meant she had to control the movement of the battle. Still, she spared a glance over at the other battle, not entirely trusting the rogue grass kunoiki. KO continued to fight with one of her whips and Toki's stolen katana, while Ayameko had equipped a pair of composite punching daggers, weapons with both a punching dagger across her knuckles, and a normal knife blade extending out the top. The pretty warrior deflected her former comrade's attacks, but made no move to strike back. Then the leaf medic was unable to observe further, as Jin pressed her distraction with a series of quick jabs. The plain shinobi was no longer playing around. His attacks were faster and stronger, while his jutsu continued to let him stop her counters with ease. Sakura wanted desperately to break out her strongest weapon techniques and ninjutsu, but she knew the risk to her charges would be too great. She had already tried channeling Ranshinsho into the Slender Man when their weapons clashed, but it did not work. As she hit him, and the stone and wood under his feet broke apart again, Sakura was struck with an idea. If he diverts my power out of his feet into the floor, she thought, what would happen if he wasn't on the ground? Inner Sakura suddenly popped up in her head, grinning widely as she pictured Jin, rocketing into the wall, energy jetting from his feet. Probably too much to hope for, her regular voice admitted, but still worth a try. Sakura fell back further, forcing her face to display anxiety, while she just barely blocked the unassuming shinobi's strikes. Finally, as she was pushed perilously close to the wall, Tsunid's apprentice swung desperately at the grass ninja's head. He interposed his sword with a sneer, but she pulled the weapon back, and used the increased momentum as she dropped, and attempted to sweep his legs. Ha! Jin barked a laugh as he hopped over her knee, as she planned. She took her turn to smirk at him, and extended her weapon again. She poured chakra into her arms and legs, magnifying her strength. The axe angled upwards, its speed and power increasing. The male Jonin appeared amused by her confidence, and extended his weapon. The blades clashed, and again the jutsu absorbed her power. But with nothing underfoot, this time the energy had no place to go, and reflected back. The simple, common longsword shattered, and Sakura's weapon continued its arc. The sharp, heavy axe cleaved upwards through Jin's belly and chest. As the blade cleared, only 1/2 inch of muscle, skin, and bone prevented the grass warrior's torso from being carved wholly in half. Sakura. As the body hit the ground, one of the doors exploded inwards, and Naruto burst into the room. He quickly took in the situation, but his face screwed up in confusion at the sight of the two grass kunoiki fighting one another. Damn, KO groused, looks like this mission is a failure. She threw Toki's sword at Haruna, mainly to distract the three guarding ninjas long enough to dash a set of smoke bombs on the ground. Sakura and Ayameko closed around the daimyos, but it was unnecessary. When the smoke cleared, their last opponent was long gone. Naruto surveyed the situation, still looking bewildered. Sakura, he asked, looking from the dead grass ninja to the injured grass kunoichi, what's going on here? KO. Saburo woke up to the realization that he was moving. He forced open one gummy eye, and recognized the ragged hair and clothes of the woman carrying him. The pain in his chest was great, but it was bound and treated with numbing herbs, so it was less than he expected. He held still, so not to unbalance her. What happened? He croaked. Ayameko betrayed us, she answered harshly. She helped the leaf ninjas and protected Lady Haruna. Jin is dead, and I don't know what happened to Gingi. He was captured by Uzumaki, Saburo explained. We need to get back, the woman snarled, and let our leader know what happened. So what are we going to do with him? Naruto asked. 2 days after the attack, the treaty was signed, the alliance affirmed. The Leaf Trio were preparing to escort the younger daimyo back to her own country. Ayameko remained with Haruna the whole time, as did Sakura, as the Leaf Shinobi were not entirely trusting of the grass kunoichi. Despite that, the medic had healed the Green's princess's relative at both rulers' request. Gingi was not so lucky. He spent the time manacled to a hospital bed, receiving only civilian treatments. The grass chunin had only now woken up, and the rulers and ninjas had gathered to observe him. Both of the royals looked to the two jonin for guidance. Neji also observed the grass woman. If he is loyal to my uncle, I would like to take him back with me, if you will allow it, the Gradient Tressed Beauty admitted, but if not, I suspect war will soon come to the land of grass, and I would deny the leader of the hidden grass village even a weapon such as him. In that case, I would respectfully ask the Konohagakure to take him into custody. Neji raised a single eyebrow in surprise, but Toki nodded. I can agree to that, the bird's daimyo agreed. You're asking a lot, Meko-chan, Haruna said contritely, then she grinned, but I suppose it is a small request for saving 2 daimyos. The noble ninja nodded, and slipped out of the observation room. A second later, she entered the tech ninja's room. The bald man's eye shifted from staring at the wall to look at the newcomer, and when he recognized his teammate, he looked briefly hopeful. Studying her body language, his face fell back to the sheet covering him. You're not here to rescue me, are you? He asked softly, were you ever part of our team, or did you always intend to betray us? The daimyo is both our ruler and our client, Ayameko said, for our leader to disregard his requirement that Lady Haruna be unharmed is dishonorable and treasonous. What are we without our word or our country? The defeated warrior digested the words thoughtfully. So what now? He prompted. That is up to you, she informed him. Do you stand with our leader or with our daimyo? Speak only the truth. Neji and Sakura recognized the powerful genjutsu woven into the question and the command. The other 3 observers remained blissfully ignorant. After considering the question, Gingi rubbed the back of his left arm with his bound right hand. Seared into the skin of his outer wrist were 12 circular scars in 2 lines. Finally, the computer expert addressed the prompt. I think the Tech Ninja program is a bust, he offered. I thought I was beating that Leaf kid, but he was just testing me. And then, despite his less than intellectual reputation, he pointed out 3 glaring errors to me. One in particular worries me. He showed her his arm. He was able to destroy the circuits pretty easy with a lightning jutsu. But he also reminded me that computers don't like heat or water. Can you imagine what would happen if one of those things were damaged but still partially functional? I started to think about what a short-circuited ninjutsu would be like. Both of the kunoichi, one present and the other observing, went pale. Naruto wanted to ask Sakura what that meant, but Gingi was still talking, and Neji shushed him. One of the researchers must have figured out what the Uzumaki punk did, but our leader sent us out anyway. And like you said, if we can't keep out contracts we won't have any customers. So I guess that means I'm with the daimyo. Ayameko let out a sigh of relief. You look tired. The statement was offered as a barb. I guess maintaining 2 bodies at all times is too draining for you. The woman in the corner bristled, but the blue-eyed, brown-haired man held up his hand to forestall her. What is your desire, master? He asked carefully, ignoring the sarcasm. Shall I bring war to the land of grass, or shall I prevent it? You still believe you can prevent this? The black-eyed, black-haired man seemed amused by the prospect, even after you ordered him to betray the daimyo's wishes. Jin was the only one who I spoke to, the only one who had my orders, the much younger man answered, and his personality tick was well known. I can explain to the daimyo that Jin decided to play the villain and take matters into his own hands. I would then offer his niece a commendation for her loyalty. That should smooth things over for now, if you are not ready for our next phase. Fine, you may try that approach. Better to preserve that stronghold until our true next move is executed. The lesser partner nodded, and hundreds of miles away, the leader of the Kasagakure emerged from the strange machine concealed in his office. For a brief instant, his eyes appeared to be blue, concentric rings, but then they faded to their original, green color. The fifth Hokage was livid. She glared out the window of her office, sorely tempted to punch through the glass. She barely noticed as she shattered the coffee cup in her hand, spilling the hot liquid onto the floor. Get him in here. Now, she roared, not even bothering with the intercom. Outside her office, Genma, Rado, and Shizune scampered away, not needing to ask whom she meant. Even had they not known, they would have been too scared to ask. Through the casement, Tsunade could see the monument to the Hokages. The stone faces of the first four Hokages stared out as always. But her own visage had been vandalized. Graffiti painted onto the granite made her look cross-eyed and fish-lipped. And even worse was the text. Someone had smeared the words, "Old woman," across her right cheek, and, all less, "No heart," on her forehead. And the Sanin doctor had no doubt in her mind who had perpetrated the crime. Since his return from the land of greens, Naruto seemed to have reverted to his 11-year-old self. He had been setting up tripwires and flash bombs throughout the village. He had tried repeated to peep at the women's baths. He had interrupted classes at the academy by pulling the fire alarm. As she pondered his behavior, Tsunade forced herself to take a deep breath. Naruto had come a long way, especially in the last year. In the past, he had pulled pranks to get attention and to take a minor revenge on the people who hated him. But Uzumaki had friends now, and was generally liked and admired in the village. There had to be some reason that he was acting like this again. Lady Tsunade, Shizune said tentatively at the door, I brought Naruto. The younger medic escorted the Chunin into the room, and then quickly exited. The Hokage's hard-fought composure nearly slipped at the smug look on his face. She glared at him, but forced herself to keep her temper in check. This situation called for carefully directed anger, not an uncontrolled explosion. What is the meaning of this, twerp? She demanded harshly. I just realized I never got a chance to decorate your carving, he smirked, and I thought it might have felt left out. What's going on, Naruto? She said softly, but in clipped tones, why are you acting out again? Did something happen with you and Hinata? Naruto looked surprised, but his grin didn't slip. Nah, we're great, he said. Then, why? Tsunade felt her control straining, why slip back into bad habits? Maybe I'm just not as mature as you thought I was, he shrugged haughtily, maybe you should bust me back to Genin. You damn punk, I'll send you back to the academy if you don't tell me what the hell is going on. Naruto looked genuinely frightened at the threat. His mask of arrogance collapsed with a disappointed sigh. Hinata said it wouldn't work, he mumbled. What wouldn't work? The fifth Hokage's rage abated and confusion took its place. Acting up. She told me you wouldn't demote me if I went back to playing pranks, he explained. She said I should just come to you directly. You want to be demoted? Her voice rose with incredulity. He nodded. Why? 6 months ago, he reminded her, you promised me you'd do whatever it took to get me to the Chunin exam in the Land of Lightning. You even offered to demote my friends. It's only 8 days from now. So you have to make me a Genin again. But you are already a Chunin, the leader of the Konoha frowned in confusion. Why would you go through this, just to compete for a rank you already earned? It's not about me, he admitted after a long pause. When you promised you'd get me to the exam, I promised Hanabi I'd be her teammate next time. I need to be a Genin, so I can be her partner. Tsunade rested her chin on her hands thoughtfully, as the last piece fell into place. Are you sure you understand what you are asking? She asked, and then continued without waiting for a response. Shinobi who are demoted always have a hard time getting back their former rank. Everyone expects them to fall again, so they find it difficult to get a second chance. Shikamaru would love to be a genin again, and Hinata would have done it for you, so the impact on those two would be lessened. But if I demote you, even if I told everyone your reason, there would always be doubt, especially given your history, and how hard you tried to become a chunin in the first place. The other thing you need to know, she leaned back, addressing him cannily, is that the Jonin trials will be held next month, right after the chunin exam. If I were to demote you, even if by some miracle you were to regain your rank right away, you wouldn't be eligible to undergo the advancement assessment. To be judged in the Jonin trials, you need to have been a chunin for at least 4 months. And since the trials are only held once every 2 years, you would have to wait that long for another chance at a promotion. Knowing that, do you still want me to demote you? The Hokage prompted. Naruto frowned sadly, but he nodded. I have to keep my promise to Hanabi, he insisted softly, that's my nindo. The medical expert looked proud, for just an instant. Then she grinned wickedly. Too bad, she told him, it's about time you learned you can't always keep your word, especially when you make promises at the drop of a hat. Also, it's punishment for all these pranks. I can't just give you what you want. You might try something stupid like this again. Besides, she said with a touch of levity, didn't Hanabi say she wouldn't team up with you this time? Naruto nodded. After you go tell Hanabi that you can't be her partner, you and Hinata will go and clean my monument, she ordered, a touch of her early anger returning. Wait, Hinata too. Why? Call it her reprimand for not talking you out of it, she smirked, or informing someone of your intentions. And don't think you can do this for her. She'd better be up there with you, or you'll both be in even bigger trouble. Now get out of here, before I consider sending you back to Iruka for remedial etiquette lessons. His eyes again expanding in fear, Uzumaki rushed out of Tsunde's office. Frankly, kid, she addressed him in her thoughts, I don't think that Pipsqueak has earned this level of loyalty from you. Pretty much the opposite. But I guess, that's part of what makes you you. Good morning, Naruto, Hiashi Hyuga said coldly. He surveyed the young man with a dubious expression. Is there something I can do for you? The clan leader noticed his elder daughter had not appeared, so this must have been an unscheduled visit. I need to talk to Hanabi, Naruto said despondently, and after that, Hinata. Hiashi led Uzumaki to one of the smaller meeting rooms in the clan manor, and dispatched one of the younger branch members to fetch his daughters. The two men sat in silence, until the door slid open again. Good morning, Naruto, Hinata's happy greeting fell off quickly as she noticed the mood. Behind her, Hanabi let out a harsh breath in impatience, and the older sister hurried into the room. She sat beside her paramour, while the younger girl stood behind her father. What is it? Hanabi demanded, hiding some of her annoyance. Naruto paused, unsure what to say. Hinata looked at him, worried. I'm sorry, Hanabi, the blonde chunin finally fought out, I can't go to the land of lightning chunin exams with you. Hiashi pursed his lips in confusion and feigned disinterest. I tried everything I could think of to get demoted, he continued quickly, and I even asked Lady Tsunade to keep her promise that she'd do anything to let me compete. But she wouldn't do it. Suddenly Hiashi understood, and he was disappointed in himself for doubting the young man. Naruto had been willing to lose both reputation and rank to fulfill his pledge to Hanabi. The girl's father smiled encouragingly at the young man, trying to convey his apologies without having to say the words. Who cares? Hanabi shrugged, indifferent, this time my whole team is going. I don't need you anyway. Is that all? The genin addressed her father, who nodded slightly. With a slight bow to her elder, the young woman strode out of the room. Naruto, I'm sorry, Hinata said unhappily, It's okay, he interjected, I'll just have to find some other way to make it up to her. And speaking of that, the fox-faced man grinned at his girlfriend sheepishly, I guess I'll have to make it up to you too. Make it up to me. She looked bewildered, and Hiashi frowned in amusement. Lady Tsunade said that you have to help me scrub the Hokage monument, he told her, as punishment for not stopping me. So my punishment is to spend the morning with you. The pale beauty smiled happily, I think the Hokage might be getting soft. Hiashi suppressed a chuckle. Give me a minute to change into some work clothes, she told him. So he vandalized the Hokages again, the elder ninja thought. Now that he knew the why, The Hyuga leader found Uzumaki's actions amusing. After the two young adults had left, Hiashi hurried in a most undignified manner up to the second floor, to the room with the best view of the mountain, activating his Kekkei Genkai as he strode. A few seconds later, peals of unfamiliar laughter echoed through the Hyuga clan's stronghold. "Isn't this where you trained me and Hanabi for the last Chunin exam?" Naruto asked, shrugging off his backpack. Hinata and Sakura nodded, as Kakashi confirmed the assessment. "I discovered this place a few years ago," he told his students. "It's a great place for training. The clearing is a decent size, it's close to the river, there are some fruit trees in the forest nearby, and it's far enough from the village we probably won't be disturbed, but close enough for a quick return trip in an emergency." 2 days after Naruto's latest string of pranks had come to an abrupt end, the copy ninja gathered his team, and told them they would be leaving for 2 weeks of intense training. "Really?" Sakura asked, pleasantly surprised. "Why now, sensei?" Naruto and Hinata already suspected the reason, and Kakashi confirmed the guess. "As you may, or may not, know," he glanced at his male charge as he offered the qualifier, "this is the year for the Jonin trials. They are held every other year, usually in the summer. But sometimes they are held earlier or later, for various reasons. And this year, the tests will be April 14th through the 18th. I know you two chose not to participate last time," the Jonin indicated the two young women, "but I guessed you might be up for it this time. And even if you decide not to enter, the training will still be good for you. We'll be leaving on Sunday, so get ready." "Sensei, can you tell us about the Jonin trials?" Naruto asked as he set up his tent. "I mean, assuming they're not secret or something." Hitaki raised his uncovered eyebrow at the question, and Sakura moaned in frustration. But Hinata nodded her agreement. "I've only heard the basics," the Hyuga heiress exaggerated slightly for his sake, "so if you give us any specifics, it would be helpful." Well, their teacher sat down, trying to decide where to begin. Unlike the Chunin exams, the Jonin trials are not a competition. Candidates and Jonin who are renewing their credentials undergo 5 days of testing. Each day, you must exhibit your mastery of one of the 5 pillars of the ninja arts before a proctor. Each test is one-on-one. The tests of ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, and weapons justice are all defined, though the specific definitions for each test vary and the examiner has some leeway. The 5th test, the espionage test, is determined by the individual proctor. "So all I have to do is pass 5 tests." Naruto smirked, "Piece of cake. Unless you have made some sudden miraculous strides in genjutsu I'm not aware of," the Sharingan user shot his student down quickly, "you won't be making the rank of Jonin this time. But even if you don't pass all 5 tests, if you pass at least 3 and display a particular aptitude in one area, you may still be awarded the rank of Tokubutsu Jonin. On the other hand, you can pass all 5 tests and not be promoted, if you just scrape by or if the Hokage and the Jonin Council feels there is some other reason to hold you back." The teens pondered, until Sakura raised another question. "Sensei, what did you mean by Jonin who are renewing their credentials?" The sharp-eared medic asked. "Even once you become a Jonin, you have to undergo the Jonin trials at least once every 10 years, he answered, "to prove you haven't lost a step. Fail, and you get demoted back to Tokubutsu Jonin, or even Chunin. And if that happens," Naruto was reminded of the Hokage's words, "it's even harder to get back to being a Jonin." Kakashi nodded. Naruto dropped the last of the weights, panting. It was a testament to the young man's stamina that he could still move. Both of his female teammates were sprawled on the ground. Sakura had started healing her bruises with what little chakra she had left. And Hinata had not even bothered to remove the training straps around her legs. When Kakashi-sensei said intense training, the Toad summoner croaked, he wasn't exaggerating. Uzumaki knelt by his girlfriend's legs, and after removing the weights, began to gently rub her calves and feet. "I've never been this tired before," Hinata spoke in short gasps. "You guys didn't do too bad," the silver-haired ninja admitted, "but it's only our first day, so I thought we should take it easy." Before lunch Kakashi had observed while they ran through the basic forms of both the hard fist and arcing leg taijutsu styles. If any of the trio made the slightest mistake, all 3 were forced to restart from the beginning. And all of that was while they were made to wear 3 of the red chakra weights on each limb. After scrounging for lunch in the barren of the pre-spring woods, Kakashi had allowed him to downgrade to only 2 sets of yellow weights per leg, and 1 yellow per arm, before running them through all the standard E and D ranks ninjutsu they had learned in the academy, or in a few cases skills one of them should have learned but had not. Again he was relentless, running them through each set over and over, with full hand seals for every technique. I need to go clean up. Hinata finally sat up, and started to regain her feet. Do you want me to wash your back, Hinata? Naruto asked with a lecherous smirk. His girl turned bright red, and started to answer. But before she could speak, Sakura stepped between them. You can help Kakashi-sensei get dinner ready, she insisted angrily, but she was too tired to clobber him. I'll go with Hinata. She stomped out of camp towards the river, half dragging the younger woman. The two, worn-out kunoichi found a small depression, pooling water at the creek's edge. Sakura used her fist to deepen it into a proper bath, despite the protests of her tired muscles. Hinata gathered some of the stones her teammate cast off, and heated them with a fire jutsu. After shedding their clothes, the two women slid thankfully into their makeshift hot tub. For the first few minutes, they just sat there in silence, letting the warmth relax their exhausted bodies. But then Hinata saw smoke rising from the temporary base, and she half stood to retrieve the soap from her bag. Sakura felt a twinge of jealousy as she studied the other woman's body. The emotion reminded her of her conversation with Naruto the previous week, and she sighed as Hinata started to lather up. Hinata, Sakura started tentatively, Well, it has been brought to my attention that I haven't been treating you very well recently. Please, stop, Hinata requested softly, shaking her head while continuing to wash. Naruto already told me about your discussion, the pale beauty told her dejectedly. Hinata, why didn't you tell me? He started without warning, even as she sat on his couch. After his return from the land of greens, the first thing he had done was to summon his significant other. Though she was excited to see him after almost 2 weeks, when she arrived, his face was sad, his voice disappointed. Tell you what, Naruto. Hinata was confused by his statement, and worried by his demeanor. Sakura, he proclaimed, softly yet powerfully. He tried to contain himself, so he did not yell at her or blame her. Neji told me how she's been treating you, he continued, that for a long time now she's been making you miserable whenever I'm not around, and even sometimes when I am. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, Naruto, Hinata said guiltily. I understand why you didn't, he said bitterly, looking down. How bad of a boyfriend am I, that I didn't notice? I mean, Neji had to tell me. Neji. Naruto, you shouldn't blame yourself, she told him, kind yet firm. Sakura and I both tried to keep it from you, and you were used to Sakura acting that way. He nodded in agreement, but was not consoled. But why didn't you tell me? He pleaded, staring into her eyes. Partly because I wanted to handle it by myself, she answered thoughtfully. You have had to deal with scorn all your life, alone. And if I want to stand by your side, I have to become just as strong. But I'm not alone anymore and neither are you. He shook his head. We are stronger together than apart, right? I know, she agreed, and if pride was the only reason, I probably would have told you. But there were other reasons. She paused, taking a breath, and then explained, I was also worried how you would react if I told you. Would you think you had to choose between Sakura and me? And if it did end up that way, and you did choose me, would you come to resent me for coming between you and your friend and teammate? Naruto started to protest, but Hinata interrupted him. I know you are not like that, but things we worry about aren't always rational. My biggest reason though, was personal, she told him. Part of me wanted to come between you two. All those years I was jealous of Sakura for having your attention, but she often told me to tell you how I felt so you would leave her alone. Then, when I accidentally did just that, and you and I started to spend time together, she started acting well. Why? She whispered the last word, blushing from using such vulgar language. She shook her head to concentrate her thoughts, and kept going. I was angry, and part of me wanted to get even, to hurt her. But I felt guilty for that. Sakura was my friend, and even if she had been my enemy, I didn't want to be that person. So I hid my hurt. I didn't tell you about Sakura's cruel words. Naruto finally sat next to her, and put his arm around her shoulder, drawing her to him. Thank you, Hinata, he murmured into her ear, but from now on, if anyone gives you any trouble, Whether it's my friends, your family, or the gods themselves, you tell me and we'll set them straight together. Okay. Yes, she smiled, putting her arms around him too. She sought his warmth against the cold of her lie. But I talked to her about it, he continued, so hopefully you two can work it out. And he told me what you said, the Hyuga-san continued, about why you had been acting that way. But it's not true. I'm not sure if you were lying to him, or if you are still lying to yourself. Either way, until you can be honest, I think this will keep on happening. And despite my promise to him, I won't tell him if you do. Sakura was left stammering, and Hinata quickly stood and dressed. I really do want to be your friend again, Sakura. Hinata's words were full of regret, and she left before the other kunoichi could recover. Sakura's eyes narrowed, and she bit her lip as she frowned at the retreating woman. That arrogant little, Sakura growled in her head, what makes her think that she's totally right? Inner Sakura appeared, confronting her other self. The dominant version snarled at her submerged voice. I liked it better when you didn't disagree with me, she told the black and white duplicate. And I liked you better when you didn't lash out at your friends. As promised, over the next 5 days, Kakashi steadily ramped up the difficulty of their training. On the morning of the 6th day, for the first time even Naruto was not fully recovered from the previous day's efforts. Each day at dawn, they started out working on physical arts, taijutsu, weapon jutsu, or stealth and tracking, with multiple chakra weights. And in the afternoon they worked on ninjutsu or genjutsu. On that brisk Friday morning, Kakashi decided he had been going too easy on him, and he had Naruto and Sakura add 2 yellow weights to each limb, on top of the 3 reds. Hinata was given 8 more blue straps to increase her effort. After attaching them, the 3 teens looked like they were wearing striped leggings and wristbands. Hinata saw Naruto strain to lift his arm, and activated her Kekkei Genkai instinctively. Under her enhanced vision she saw more of the red chakra than usual, in blotches all throughout his system. Though worried, she decided to trust her boyfriend and her teacher. After their midday meal, they focused again on genjutsu, with the 2 young women using their techniques on Naruto, while the oblivious young man tried desperately to break the illusions. But he remained unable to free himself, and spent the afternoon bumbling into trees, and attempting to eat rocks and branches that appeared to be food. At one point he fervently believed his clothing had caught fire, and stripped off his jacket and undershirt, throwing them away. Alight, let's try one more thing, Kakashi said, as Sakura dismissed the vision of the Tsunagaku from Naruto's eyes and ears, something simple. Sakura and I will assume Hinata's appearance except with genjutsu instead of ninjutsu. All you have to do is pick out the right one. Right, the younger man shuddered, his body and chakra exhausted, and his will weakened, that should be easy. Kakashi blindfolded the blonde Chunin, and then the other 3 shinobi moved into the forest so he could not hear them. After 5 minutes of fidgeting, Naruto felt gentle hands ply at the cloth covering his eyes. Are you okay, Naruto? Both of the Hinatas in front of him asked in worried tones, as the third circled around to join them. The 3 young women all gazed at him with concern. His vision blurred, as his brain tried to reconcile the triplicates before him. He staggered, and the Hinata on his left moved to catch him, but he backed away. Kakashi-sensei, I think you've been too hard on him, the Hinata in the middle said. Naruto shook his head, breathing harshly. He looked at the trio before him, trying to find any difference, any gap in appearance or scent. But he could not tell, and his head ached from the effort. He put his hands together, cycling his chakra again. Release, he commanded, but nothing changed. None of the genjutsu so much as flickered to give him a clue. Chakra pulse, he intoned, forcing energy through his system at high speed. Despite his random hope, the technique to counter chakra sealing had no effect on the masking techniques. He dropped his head, panting. Naruto, which of us is real? One of the Hinatas prompted tensely. Uzumaki did not answer. Instead he slowly, unsteadily lifted his hand. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Naruto pointed to each of them in turn as he chanted, before finally indicating the Hinata on his right. Then he lifted his head, showing them his glowing red eyes, and the expanded wickers on his cheeks. Uzumaki's body darted forward, the seal on his stomach appearing like a glowing brand. He grabbed Hinata by the neck with his right hand and lifted her into the air. Their illusions fade, and the real Hyuga squirmed in his grasp. break her neck, or let her go. The QB concluded her little song, squeezing. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.